Hello, everybody. This is Sophia Mona Lisa of the Roseville Mystery School and the Golden Ray Center. And if it feels like it's been quite a while since you've seen us, that is true. It's been 2 months, 2 months since the last gate activation of the descent phase, which is the first phase of the Venus synodic cycle. That was the Earth Star chakra activation, the jumping off place into the Inanna underworld, which is the second phase. This is where we are now. And on Tuesday, June 4th, we will be at that midway point for the Inanna underworld journey, where we will be having the resurrection seed point experience. That happens when the sun and Venus come together in the underworld. Today is Sunday, June 2nd. And so I've got 2 months worth of alchemical process that has sped up drastically from the time we jumped off at the Earth Star chakra to now the resurrection seed point, plus the aspects that have been informing us through all of that. A lot has been going on these 2 months. So it's going to look a little different today in terms of the way that we present the material, because of the fact that we're catching up on these couple of months, and because of the fact that we are rapidly progressing through this alchemical process that is really the fundamental part of the Inanna underworld journey, which, as you may recall, is the death by intent experience, this shamanic death and rebirth. And of course, the resurrection seed point has to do with that rebirth aspect of it. So let me get my mouse here because Romeo's decided to join me and has knocked everything off. Okay, here we go. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do to get the ball rolling today is, again, if you recall, in April, was it April or March? I'm not sure which. I spent a lot of time inviting everyone and encouraging everyone to engage with Violet Tara and the Violet Fire practice as a way to facilitate going through this Inanna underworld journey. So today, unlike past gatherings, we are going to start our gathering by going ahead and invoking Violet Tara and the Violet Flame, because we are still in this Inanna underworld journey, and this is a part of the spiritual practice that I was inviting everybody to engage to facilitate this journey. So, whether you want to stay muted or unmute yourself, we're going to go ahead and just take a minute. We're going to drop into our Christ heart, and we're going to invoke Violet Tara. Now, this invocation, just to give credit where credit is due, was put together by Peter Mount Shasta. He is the gentleman that Saint Germain came to and told Peter Mount Shasta about Violet Tara, and asked Peter Mount Shasta to write the 2 volumes about Violet Tara, which are the 2 volumes that I referenced in terms of this spiritual practice. So very, very appreciative to both Saint Germain and Peter Mount Shasta for this practice. And so we begin. Beloved Goddess Tara, Mother of the violet flame of forgiveness, help us overcome the illusions of the world. Free us from ignorance and help us achieve enlightenment. Grant us the ability to forgive and feel compassion for others. Clear all negative energy and raise our consciousness. We pray to you, come to us now, Violet Tara, Mother of the Violet Fire. So my practice with Violet Tara has been very, very powerful. And just as a spoiler alert, I'm going to be doing at the end of this month a Divine Feminine Leadership conversation around this practice and how this practice has helped those of us involved to embody deeper levels of compassion and forgiveness. So that's something everybody can look forward to towards the end of this month. Now let's look at where we are in this Leo goddess Venus synodic cycle. We have come through the descent phase, that first phase, starting at the soul star chakra, completing with the earth star chakra on April 7th. And as I said, that chakra is the jumping off place for the Inanna underworld journey. And here we are, nearly an exact 2 months later, right, from April 7th to June 4th, where we are halfway through the Inanna underworld journey, coming together at the resurrection seed point. And at the completion of this presentation, the members of the Galactic New Earth Tribe and I will be privately activating that 22nd strand of DNA that is coming online with the resurrection seed point. So as I mentioned, a lot has happened between April 7th to June 4th, coming up in 2 days. And so we want to get caught up on that. And to do that, we're going to really start right here where we left off at the Earth Star Chakra. And Maureen Paxton, whose high priestess name is Windsong, and I have been consciously choosing to honor her through her high priestess name, we are going to help take you through this entire Inanna underworld alchemical process that was initiated from that Earth Star Chakra activation. And that is because something unique that we alluded to, but didn't really go into, occurred at that Earth Star activation. And so we want to begin there, take us a little deeper, and then bring us forward. And so that has to do with what's known as step 8 in the alchemical process. Up until now, you've been hearing all about the 7 steps. But now, Maureen is going to introduce this step 8, which is also known as the Alpha and the Omega, and tie it into what happened at the Earth Star Chakra and how we've been progressing forward with this. But we've really got to understand on a deeper level what this mysterious step 8, the Alpha and the Omega, is all about. What I did do is Windsong gave me 2 slides related to this. And I realized when I was putting this together that she had actually included a slide at the Earth Star activation about this step. But again, the relevance of this, the significance of this really kind of got overlooked. And so, Maureen, I hope you don't mind that I put this in here as a place to start. And then from here, go into those other 2 slides. So, Maureen, Windsong, if you will unmute yourself and come forward and help us really understand the deeper mystery and the significance of this step.
Yes, as I began to study the Azos drawing, which was drawn by Valentine in 1659, I think so. He was an alchemist, probably one of the best in the history of alchemy. And Dennis William Hauck did a lot of work with the Azoth, as did Carl Jung, and they talked about 8 steps, and you can only see 7. And they didn't explain that right away. You have to really get into the Azoth and the symbolism before you can actually see where they come together. So the first step and the 8th step, they're on the same ray. The color is black. It is the same symbolism. Salt, which is the square. The planet is Saturn, and the number is 1 on the Azoth, but it is also 8. And when you come around to the full cycle and end at number 1, where you began, it points to the corpus, the body. And around the cube that represents the body are 5 stars. They all represent, 4 stars represent the elements: earth, air, fire, and water. And the 5th one was presented as mystery. Well, we know now that the 5th one people have called the universe, spirit, God, goddess. There are lots of different names, but we are calling it the Sophia Christ consciousness, the I am presence, and the philosopher's stone. So that is where you have the first evidence of the philosopher's stone that you have created through your work, through 7 steps. And now that is complete. When we begin again with the root star chakra at the first step, it will be an octave higher. The vibration will be higher. The knowledge will come in at a very much higher level of understanding. And we will be guided by the Sophia Christ consciousness, the Violet Tara, the steps, the exercises that you do at each step will change. The second power of the elements will come in to being. The Azoth, yeah, here's the newer slide. I wanted to bring the physician and alchemist Paracelsus, because he studied a lot of Hypatia. And the secret of the Azoth, as he stated, he who does not seek is not likely to find it. Meaning that it's not given to you and spoon-fed you like so many other philosophies have been. This is totally a personal and private journey. We each do our own work. And in doing our own work, we not only heal ourselves, but we contribute to the collective. And this is going to be on a very different level. We will be contributing, I'm sorry, my earphones just went out. We will be contributing to the collective conscious, just like Jung wrote about the collective conscious. It's going to change big time, as you will see when Sophia Mona Lisa presents her part. It's going to be, there are no words. It's just amazing what is happening here. Okay, so this is just a review. Azoth is a name for the one thing. The A and the Z relate to the Greek alphabet, the alpha omega, the beginning, the end, the chaotic first matter and the beginning at the beginning and perfected stone at the end, the opus magnum, the philosopher's stone. I kept going over this in my mind. How does this relate to the underworld? And I began to see as the crown and then the third eye, and they all began to move down into the underworld. I called it the underworld integration time for those chakras, but there's something much more pertinent to that. It is an omega point for the work that we've done. So we are now calling it the alpha omega step. And that is going to be the force behind all of this action. The eighth step is what we're going to return to the first ray. Salt, Saturn, points to the cubic stone. We've done this, we know this, but we arrive back where we started only now, Dennis William Hawk says. The second cycle we begin. We are now empowered and embodied in an eternal stone that represents an incorruptible higher consciousness. Sophia Christ consciousness. That's where we are now. That's where we will begin our second cycle around the Azos through the steps. The exercises, the way that we approach each step is going to change. It's going to be an octave higher. It's going to be different. I can't tell you exactly what that's going to look like because it's not here yet. But it is forming. It will be here, and we will know what to do when it does arrive. So also I wanted to note that what's coming into the consciousness is how we work with crystals. I came to understand that how we work with crystals isn't right. We live in a free will planet. We have to understand that everything on this planet is equal. All has life, all has consciousness. So the idea that we may own a crystal, that we may cleanse the crystal, that we may program it to our will is wrong. And I'm going to get a lot of criticism for that in the world, I expect, but for anybody who listens, but they are equal beings and we engage with them in a partnership. So there's no need for us to program crystals. We only begin a partnership with them. And that is a different technique that I'm learning from the alchemy of crystals, which I deeply appreciate. Richard Simmons, he really has a lot of knowledge about the crystal world, and he knows how empowering that working with them is. So I think that's going to be a big part of our second cycle as well.
Maureen, do you happen to have that book available that you could put up and show us? So
yeah,
anybody,
I'll get
okay.
it. It's on my shelf.
Okay, hold on. And while she's looking for that book, let me just say, because she contacted me when this new awareness came through, and what's fascinating about it is that this new awareness about working with the crystals in this way came through after the total solar eclipse, which, if you will recall, was the day after this Earth Star chakra activation. The Earth Star chakra activation was on April 7th. The total solar eclipse was April 8th. And then after that, Maureen got this huge download about how we in the tribe can start working with the crystals from this place of conscious equal partnership, because of course that is the eclipse season that we are in, and that consciousness that total solar eclipse on April 8th brought through to Maureen.
That's how I knew that the chakras were moving. Yeah. Otherwise, I wasn't sure how they were going to move down.
Can't see the title, Maureen.
Okay, there it is. The Alchemy
Stones.
of Stones, co-creating with crystals, minerals, and gemstones for healing and transformation by Robert Simmons.
Who?
And here is his picture.
Robert Simmons,
Robert, yeah.
Simmons.
Yeah. He's written other things on crystals as well. This book, I was looking at two in the bookstore. One was on Hypatia. One was this one, The Alchemy of Stones. I moved on trying to think in my own head, which one do I need the most right now? And so I had chosen Hypatia. So I came back to where it was shelved, and there was somebody standing right in front of it. So I walked away and looked at some other things. I came back 3 times, and each time there was somebody in front of the book, and I couldn't get in there to get it. When I came back the 4th time, it was gone. One of those people had decided that they were going to buy the book on Hypatia. So then the one that was left was Alchemy of Stones. That was a guided happening. That was the book that I needed. And so I came home and with that book and began to read it. And then I ordered another book on Hypatia, so I could see her life too. And it was amazing. This man, I just like to listen to him so much. And he reads online on YouTube. He reads the first 4 chapters to you, which is nice. And he gives little asides as he reads, so you can listen to that if you want to get a sample of what the book is like. And he tells you how to experience the book. Like the first part of the book is like the trunk of the tree. The second or the middle part is the branches that come out from the trunk, and the third is all the leaves on the tree. So he says you don't have to start at the beginning. You could start in the middle if you like. So whatever part of his study with crystals interests you most, it's okay. It's not, you don't have to start at the beginning. It's not that kind of book. So
and maybe Maureen, you could email us a link to at least the first video of his. So
sure.
For anybody who's interested, we could start watching those and be led into the others.
Okay.
So yeah. So what we wanted to show you is, again, picking up from where we left off, which was back here at this April 7th, Death by Intent, Earth Star Chakra Portal activation, and the activation of the 21st strand of DNA. Is this slide comes straight from there. We talked about how the crown chakra had gone through all 7 steps, and now the Earth Star chakra was outcast at calcination. We did not include the 8th step, the alpha and omega. And in fact, at this slide here, you may recall that the crown chakra had dropped off. So we only had the Earth Star chakra through the 3rd eye with those 1st through 7 steps. But Maureen and I felt it was really important to modify this slide so that you could see that, in fact, at a deeper level of mystery, and as she said, a higher frequency, the crown chakra had gone through these first through 7 steps, completing those, and now had stepped onto the 8th step of the alpha and the omega. And as she said, it's like an integration period before the spiral then goes up for the second time and begins again at calcination. So we wanted you to see how the alpha and omega 8th step has been an integral part since this death by intent portal over the past 2 months. So we're going to kind of take you through, well, we are going to take you through the slides to demonstrate that to you. But also through this, what came into Maureen is the actual activations in the sky that were moving each of the chakras to the next step in the alchemical process. Now, what's unique about this is we've been working with these steps on a month-by-month basis, because in the descent phase, the activations were happening on a month-by-month basis. But this Inanna underworld journey is a compressed time frame where now the spiral is happening at a much more rapid pace. And so it's really fascinating how she got part of this, and then I got part of it, and then we met and we put it all together, and we're like, oh my God, yeah, it perfectly falls in place. So as she said, she realized that April 8th, the next day, that solar eclipse was already now another shift in the spiral. And so let me show you that. What that meant was, while the Earth Star chakra on the 7th was at calcination, instead of having to wait a whole month to get to the next step, the very next day, it went into dissolution. So here we see 1 day rather than 1 month, the Earth Star chakra moved into dissolution. And of course, as it moved, everything else moved, meaning that the very next day, the third eye chakra, which was at coagulation the day before, the 7th step, is now at the alpha and omega step. And the next shift for all of this happened a couple of weeks later at the full moon. Remember, the solar eclipse, anytime there's a solar eclipse, it's happening at a new moon. And the new moon and the full moon happen about 2 weeks apart. So that's why I'm saying a couple of weeks later at the full moon in Scorpio was the next shift. Now, what's fascinating is you may recall that I did put out a video journal on the Wesak full moon in Scorpio. And if you didn't see it, or if you saw it and want to be reminded, I will put the link to that video underneath in the description box. But what I discovered in hindsight, as we were putting together this schedule of when each chakra was being progressed to the next step, is that these first 3 activations are linked together. And for those that did the 21st strand of DNA activation readings, it becomes really obvious about how the 3 of these are linked together. But let me just show you as I move forward. At that full moon in Scorpio, the Wesak full moon, now the Earth Star chakra moves to the 3rd step, separation. And so here we see, bing, bang, boom. Now the throat chakra is at this 8th step, the alpha and omega. And of course, while the throat chakra has moved to the alpha and omega, notice that the crown chakra and the 3rd eye chakra are still in that Inanna underworld integration that happens at the alpha and omega. So again, going to quickly take you through this schedule so that you can follow it. The next event was when Venus descended into the underworld. And I did a video on Venus descending into the underworld. There have been some tweaks since then, because subsequent to that, what came into my consciousness was this huge thing about these activations, which I'm going to show you, that happened with the goddess Sedna. Now, as a spoiler alert, let me just say, you may not recall, but last June 15 of 2023, I did this video on the goddess Sedna making her ingress from Taurus to that 0 degrees, 00 minute of Gemini, and that shift by her into Gemini was the first time that was happening in over 11,000 years. Well, what we're seeing now is that in my original Venus descent into the underworld video, or when I originally did this video here, because I didn't cast a chart, I was, when you look at these ephemerises, until you actually cast a chart, they can be off a day or so. When I cast the chart for Venus descent into the underworld, and I included Sedna, and this is important because I didn't understand what was happening to Sedna at the time I made that video, and so she wasn't in the chart. But I started getting this information coming in, and I'm like, ooh, I need to look at this. I recast the chart for Venus descent into the underworld, and it turns out that Sedna returned to that 00 point of Gemini on the day of Venus's descent in the underworld. Whereas in this video that I did last June, I talked about it happening the day after. But that was not accurate. It actually happened the very day that Venus made that descent into the underworld. And so I will put a link to this underneath if anybody wants to go back and re-listen to that. Again, just keep in mind some of the corrections that I've discovered since then. But this is the thing that we need to know about Sedna and tracking Sedna, and why this is so flipping important and is just changing our whole reality in terms of what we know right now, which is being made evident. And I don't want to go too far into it, but I will tell you, being made evident in the very first eclipse that will happen in September on the Virgo Pisces axis, the axis of Sophia Christ. And Maureen joined the Sophia Christ mentorship program. We looked at that yesterday. We were blown away. You cannot fathom the infinite cosmic intelligence that is unfolding through these events. And the analogy I was given is, that old analogy of the 4 or 5 blind men around the elephant. One's got the trunk, one's got the tail, one's got the leg, one's touching the belly. I said, what they're telling me is all we have is the whisker. That's all we've got. There's no flipping way we can fathom what this whisker, that might be a piece of straw or God knows what, is going to manifest as. That's how potent and how transformative Sedna coming into play here with the Inanas, the Venus descent into the Inanna underworld and the activations that I'm going to show you happening through here. What's happening in this Inanna underworld absolutely relates to that eclipse in September, the first eclipse on the Virgo Pisces axis. It's like this Inanna underworld journey is kind of preparing us for that. But in terms of the intensity that's going to happen in September, this is like barely scratching the surface. So what we know about Sedna in terms of tracking her is that Sedna was in Taurus for 58 years before she moved into Gemini last June 15th. And she will continue to remain in Gemini for 43 years. But what's incredible is she moves into Gemini June 15th. And then almost immediately from June to September, isn't it interesting? We're talking about a same time period. Fast forward, June, the resurrection seed point, to September, that Virgo Pisces eclipse. From June 15th to September 3rd. So what is that? That's July. It's like 2.5 months. She immediately starts a vision quest, meaning she stations retrograde. And so by December, 2 months later, she's already back in Taurus. So it's taken her 11,000 years to get into Gemini again, but in a matter of 6 or 7 months, she's back in Taurus. Now, I stopped tracking this because, we got distracted with all these other things, the Sophia Code, DNA activation, the stars of the ancient constellations. I mean, we've been being led forward into all kinds of uncharted territory. And this is something that just kind of fell by the wayside. Well, while we were already now in our Leo goddess journey, because remember, last August, you ladies were here for that metamorphic seed point ceremony where the Capricorn goddess becomes the Leo goddess. So right after the Leo goddess gets on the world stage is when Sedna begins her vision quest in September. We're talking within a matter of a week or two. She enters Taurus in December. By February of this year, she stations direct in Taurus. But she doesn't move back into Gemini until, as I said, the very day that the Leo goddess drops into the Inanna underworld. Now, she's not going to complete this vision quest until June 9th, which is 5 days after this resurrection seed point. And so Sedna is an integral part of what's happening. And let me explain to you on a higher frequency what that integral part is. You will recall that when Maureen and I came back from France, that happened in the Libra goddess journey. And we went through the ascent phase and the metamorphic phase with Kaylin Castell, our high priestess sister that is teaching classes on the Venus synodic cycle. And we discovered that for us, it wasn't going deep enough. And that's when Maureen said, you really need to start teaching classes on this. And so I started teaching classes with the very next synodic cycle, which was the Gemini goddess. The Gemini goddess synodic cycle, the rainbow goddess archetype. And there's lots of archetypes for the Gemini frequencies, but we were working with the rainbow goddess. We talked about the rainbow goddess being representative of our earthly 3D chakra system, because of course, in the traditional chakra system, they are the rainbow colors. We talked about the rainbow goddess archetype being representative of what is it called? The colosseum. What is that name, Maureen? The colosseum, the thing that divides the left hemisphere from the right.
Yeah,
The corpus callosum.
Corpus callosum.
there you go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That the rainbow archetype was helping us to bridge across the corpus callosum to get out of this left brain, right brain, to unify the lower mind so that we could rise up into the higher mind. Okay, so this is how we were talking about the rainbow goddess archetype. Fast forward to now. Here we have Sedna. I've talked about Sedna as this goddess that is all about transmutation. What she does is she takes whatever resources, whatever tools that you're working with, and when the environment shifts to a new evolutionary environment and those tools no longer work, she transmutes those tools. She transmutes those resources into leading edge tools and resources for you to be able to work and thrive in this new evolutionary environment. And, I've talked about the analogy of the very first phone that Alexander Graham Bell allegedly created to now we've got these cell phones. What a transmutation of that tool that has transpired. Okay. Sedna, she's making a vision quest. Why is she making a vision quest? There was something she needed to know that had gotten forgotten, that had gotten left behind, that needed to be brought forward before she could continue this journey into Gemini. So she's a transmutational goddess. She's in this rainbow archetype. And it's like as obvious as the nose on the face. What did I say at the Earth Star chakra or the root chakra? I said, what's obvious now is when we come up through the ascent journey, we're no longer going to be making the ascent journey through the 3D physical body chakra system. We're going to be making the ascent journey through the higher octave crystalline body chakra system. And here's the evidence. I received the divine wisdom from Sophia. This is the evidence. She is the goddess that is facilitating this transmutation as a part of this Inanna underworld goddess experience and the alchemical process that we are going through. It's absolutely flipping unbelievable. Here's the revised chart that you won't see in that original video. Look at this. Here she is. The very day that Venus descends into the Inanna underworld, there she is at 000 Gemini again. Just flipping incredible. Now, what I want to point out to you here, because this takes us forward in the alchemical process. She's in Gemini, where she's very closely aspected to Sekhmet. Look at this trine. This trine to Osiris, the cosmic Christ, and Pluto, who is all Sedna and Pluto, they're like workmates. They're like partners. They're like two sides of the coin. He has to do with transformation. She has to do with transmutation. Both of them, two sides of the same coin of an alchemical process. And they're training each other. How do we get from the lower mind to the higher mind? How do we get from this lower body chakra system, which as an energy system falls into the air element, to the higher body, the higher frequency chakra system, the path of most allowance? Sedna is a critical part as an embodiment of the rainbow goddess to help us do that. And she's working with the cosmic Christ. She's working with Pluto to help us birth ourselves into that level of quantum mastery, that level of quantum empowerment. It's just flipping mind-blowing. Now, I've got this in here as a placeholder because of Muroc and Andromeda, and related to that, you can come back and look at those. But now what we see is that this Venus descent into the underworld, we've got the Earth star now shifting again very quickly, right? The last shift was on the 23rd. Now it's shifting again on the 27th to the next step conjunction, which means the very day that Venus descends into the Inanna underworld, the Leo goddess that is about the crazed heart. The heart chakra comes into that 8th step of the Alpha and Omega. I mean to tell you, I am on pins and needles because we couldn't see it before. And then all of a sudden, like I said, for both Maureen and I, and we were both getting pieces that locked together, it became as clear as the noses on our faces. And so I just want to pause here and go back to the group, because I just really I'm so curious as to what's coming up within you in terms of these major revelations, the potency, the power of what we've been going through. And that's just to Venus dropping into the underworld. Wait till I share the rest with you.
There are no coincidences.
No, and this is even beyond synchronicity, as we were saying. You know, it's way beyond that. Which I didn't think there was anything better than that, you know, when that validates your path. But this is way beyond that. This is such a higher vibration that, you know, I can't quite grasp what that's going to look like or feel like. You know, and I have a question regarding the Pisces, the new cycle, Venus. We had thought Kuan Yin would be the guiding goddess of that cycle, but are we now thinking it's Sedna?
Well, what I landed on is that whole goddess synodic cycle is about the Divine Mother. And if you go to my webpage on the Sophia Christ Mentorship Program, I clarify it. This eclipse season, that journey, which are almost completely aligned, and which brings up another topic I'll mention in a second, it's about the Divine Mother. It's about, think about this Leo, this Aries Libra axis, conscious equal partnership, 6 eclipses. All of them are solar eclipses except for one.
Yeah.
The one and only lunar eclipse, which happened in March. And I said after that, this has initiated in this whole new conscious equal partnership with the Divine Mother. And that's when I updated the Sophia Christ Mentorship Program and said, this is not even just about Kuan Yin and Mother Mary and Violet Tara. It's about the Divine Mother. Of course, the Magdalene, also a representative of the Divine Mother. Sedna coming in as an ally, as a representative of the Divine Mother, because in the Inuit tradition around Sedna, they revere her as the mother of the ocean, who, when they are having shortages in their fishing, whatever, they make prayers to Sedna, and she sends them the fruits of the ocean to feed and nurture them and to nourish them. So she is also a Divine Mother goddess.
Okay, refresh my brain here. Okay, Sedna, I'm trying to remember this, and I see if I think I'm right, but I'm not 100%. I think I got it, but I'm not 100%. Sedna was the one whose father threw her overboard and let her and drowned her, or let her drown, whatever, up in the Northwest, which is obviously where that would be, because you're talking Inuit, so you're talking Alaskan. So, but that's who Sedna is, because she's the one who came up somehow with her hands turned into fins.
So you're on the right track, Gina. So just to briefly give an overview of that mythology. Sedna's father marries her off to this ogre, and she escapes from him and goes back to the father. The father is enraged, puts her in the boat, tries to take her back to the guy, and the storm comes up. And in the midst of the storm, she falls overboard. She's clinging to the side of the boat. The father's trying to get her to let go of the boat, and eventually chops her fingers off.
Yes. Okay.
And as she floats to the bottom of the ocean, her mutilated hands transmute into flippers, the fins of the sea lions, the cetaceans, you know. And isn't it interesting that the 21st strand of DNA, which wasn't revealed until I did Helen's 21st strand DNA reading, is the cetacean DNA. The cetacean DNA is activated within us 2 weeks before she comes back into 000 Gemini when Venus descends into the underworld. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
No. I forgot about the fact that she had been married off to this idiot, you know, I know an ogre is a better term for him, actually, but
Right.
I knew that her father was involved with what happened. I did forget that he actually cut her fingers off.
Right.
So to force her to let go of the boat.
Exactly. And so this is where Sophia guided me in terms of the relevance of Sedna from the myth. Sophia's like, look, she goes from a land lover to an ocean lover, totally foreign environments, right? Like going from 3D to 5D, totally foreign environments. What worked for her on land is not going to work for her in the ocean. She needs new tools. She needs new resources. And that's how Sophia explained to me what her role is as a goddess and how she is facilitating this really leading edge transformation within us to be able to work in the ascent journey through the higher chakra crystalline body system, when for all these years everybody's been working with the earth-based chakra system, but we're not there anymore.
No, you know, I would the point of the, I think it was the sacral on the ascent. There was
we didn't
something.
talk about that, did we? Okay, so this is what happens. I don't have the chart here to show you.
Yeah.
But what's very clear is that the aspect in the sky for that September eclipse, which is the first Virgo Pisces eclipse in Pisces, is that there is some spiritual rebirth happening through a kite. And it's clear because of the constellation involved, which is known as the Cup of Dionysus, but it's also known as the Holy Grail. And for me, because it's in Virgo, which is sacred service to the sacred feminine, it really relates to the Holy Grail. What we discovered is the timing of that eclipse is, and I said to Maureen, some spiritual birthing is happening through the Holy Grail, which is the higher octave of the sacral chakra in the crystalline body. We go back and look, that eclipse is happening in the window of the activation of the sacral chakra.
Yes, it was amazing. And then the song that came in for me was let's see, the Hush. What's the name of that song, Sophia, Mona Lisa?
Oh, Lordy.
There's a
Hush
hush.
now, hush now.
There's a hush all over the world.
yeah,
today.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay, that's the song. All of a sudden, I mean, it's going to be that fast. The collective conscious is going to stop cold, and they are going to realize the path of love versus the path that we have seen the collective consciousness on, the division that we have seen. And I was given this wonderful image, and I was so grateful for it, of a large playpen. Now, the ones that accept love as the path will be moving on. Those who will continue in the warring ways of the 3D dimensional world will be caught up in a playpen of sorts, and they will be left to fight it out amongst each other. It will no longer be a part of our world that we are moving into. So I don't know all the players that will be in that playpen, but there will be a many that you are looking at now that have manipulated and programmed and changed the world to their way. They will be in the playground. They will be in the playpen, and that's where they will be staying. And they are no longer relevant. We don't even have to worry about it anymore.
And for the rest of humanity, in terms of this spiritual rebirth that's happening through the Holy Grail, it's going to be like waking up from a dream or a nightmare. It's going to be like a vague memory of, did that really happen?
Is that true?
Is that true? That couldn't possibly be, because it's really Source or Sophia Christ saying, that's it. Enough is enough.
Yep.
And that's why that first kite aspect on the Virgo Pisces eclipse is going to be even more alchemical than what we're experiencing now, because all of the quote unquote zombies, right, that have been walking around in this 3D matrix are going to wake up from it and wonder what the hell happened?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
No, yeah, they will. And it's going to be that sudden. And I didn't think it would happen in my lifetime. And I'm really excited to know that it is. And it's hard to completely trust that. It's a little different because we've been so cautious about what we're being fed. But that's not the truth anymore. And more people will see that. It will be a huge, huge awakening. And if our Congress wants to stay in that playpen, well, okay, we don't need them. Let them stay, and they can just play their games. We aren't going to do that anymore.
What I'm seeing is, and I
Mhm.
mean, I'm not a gamer, but I have a sense of it because my nephew is really into this. There's this thing now where he can play his games on TV, and somehow it hooks up to his friend that lives,
Yeah.
an hour away on TV, and they're playing each other on TV, right?
Right.
But every other household using their TV is oblivious to the fact that these two yahoos are playing this game on their TVs. It's going to be like that. There's going to be such a separation of consciousness that those that are now been sequestered to the 3D playpen, if they want to keep fighting it out, let them keep fighting it out amongst themselves. But it's not going to impact the rest of us.
That leads into something that a friend of mine had said at some point with all of this that we know is going on with the ascension process and everything. And then I know we're down in the underworld at the moment. Jesus, please help us. But it's like we'll both be I don't want to say that we're going to be on separate planets, but from this is the perspective I see, is that, you know how sometimes when you're someplace and then you think you see something out of the corner of your eye, but you're not sure that you saw something? That's kind of how it's going to be for those people who will stay on this level, because we'll be at for those people, and I include myself in this because that's the goal, you know, but is that we will be at the 50, and we won't be visible to those people who are still in that nasty little playpen playing their stupid games.
I used a very similar analogy,
Mhm.
Gina, when Maureen and I were having this discussion. I'm sure you may have experienced this because we've been transitioning, you know, third, fourth, 50, going back and forth. Experiences when you're like at a light or at a stop sign, and you're looking, there's no car, and then you look and then boom, where did that car come from?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. And you know,
Mhm.
Maureen was talking about when she was doing her little thing with the alchemical process, and she's got the little thingies, and we are talking about the Azoth, right? It's it's just like a scale on the piano, because
Mhm.
at the eighth key it starts to repeat again. There's only 7 keys: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. There are 7, and then it repeats again at A. And
At a
so it
higher octave.
at a yes, the octave changes.
Good analogy.
That
Mhm.
that that was the very first thing I thought of when
Mhm.
you said that. I mean, it's like,
And
oh
what's
my God.
happening, which I'm going to show you through the rest of these slides, is
Uh-huh.
we are in this Inanna underworld journey, and Sedna's a big part of it, being lifted into the higher octave. So by the time we have the first activation at the root chakra, we are going to be at a whole new cycle, whole new
Yeah.
alchemical cycle, whole new octave of that alchemical cycle. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you else what ties into this. Let me go back to my slides here.
Okay.
And let me see here. Before I go forward, let me go back a minute. Because I want you to see this here. Osiris, the cosmic Christ at Aquarius, making this trine to Sedna. 4 days before this event, we had that Wesak full moon. Again, I don't have the slide here to show you, but I'll put the link below. In the chart for the Wesak full moon, we have a fixed grand cross. And at the bottom of that grand cross, down here, right before the IC, is the cosmic Christ in Aquarius. I speak to that then. I didn't understand the fullness of how we are really, through this whole integration process in terms of being led up the spiral to the higher octave, it is the cosmic Christ who is overseeing it, and Pluto is helping him to facilitate it. And so from the Wesak full moon, where they were together at the bottom of that fixed Christ 4 days before, you're going to see these aspects that keep including Sedna and this trine between the first couple of degrees of Gemini and the first couple of degrees of Aquarius. So let me go forward now to where we were. Okay, we talked about the incredible cosmic intelligence that brought the Christ heart to the Alpha and Omega at the day that Venus descends into the underworld, the Leo goddess, the goddess that rules the heart chakra, and Sedna coming back into that place of 000. And then the next activation happens at the full moon in Sagittarius. This was the time when I was having my deathly ill Inanna underworld initiation, where I was like laid out. And this full moon and what was a part of this full moon comes into play. Now, just like these first three twists or shifts of the chakras are related to each other, these three, the April 27th, the May 23rd full moon, and now the one coming up on Tuesday, are all related to each other. But let me show you what's happened with this full moon. Again, gonna blow your mind. The day before the full moon, the day before, on May 22nd, the sun in Gemini trines Pluto. Of course, we know Osiris, the cosmic Christ, is there. Again, that pathway, just like the one that I showed you with Osiris and Pluto trining Sedna and Sekhmet. Sedna is right here. Osiris and Pluto is there. Nobody's talking about that. They'll tell you the sun trine Pluto, but they're not tracking the cosmic Christ. They're not tracking Sedna. They don't know that they're involved in this trine. This is what sets the stage for what happens in the full moon. Now, before I go through the rest of this, I had a visitation by a being who calls herself Susan Fu. And she told me that she works with Karen. And I'm thinking, is she working with Karen on the higher planes? Is it somebody that Karen knows and is related to? Of course, I texted Karen. She's like, I don't know who Susan Fu is. But this being who was calling herself Susan Fu and told me she is working with Karen is a Lyran. And she told me many, many things. One, she told me that at this full moon in Sagittarius, which as a part of, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 aspects happening around this full moon in Sagittarius. They're all linked together. They're all happening around 29 Taurus, 1 to 3 degrees of Gemini, and across from Sagittarius. She told me, this Lyran told me that at this full moon in Sagittarius, that what came in was a whole new quantum timeline. And what she explained to me, and of course it didn't make sense because Maureen and I hadn't had these conversations yet, was that the frequency of this quantum timeline was so high that for the average Joe, that they would not be able to jump onto that timeline. That the analogy she gave me is of that little merry-go-round or whatever you call it in the playground, where you have to run and you're pushing it around and around and around. And when you get to a certain rate of speed, you can jump on it and you can ride it for all it's worth. She said that most of humanity was not going to be able to jump on that merry-go-round because the frequency of the quantum timeline was so high that no matter how fast their little legs and their little feet were going, they weren't going to be able to do it. They were going to be spun off. But for us and those like us who are consciously engaging and working with these codes, and with specifically this Sophia code DNA, that this full moon, and remember what full moons are about. They're about illuminating, and in Sagittarius, illuminating the truth of who you are. That this full moon was acting like a trampoline for us to bounce off of and get onto that quantum timeline. We didn't have to use the little merry-go-round. We didn't have to get our feet and legs running. We were simply bouncing off the trampoline of this full moon with all of these aspects that are empowering us to make that bounce, to get onto that quantum timeline. Remember, all of this is going across this trine. First couple of degrees of Gemini, first couple of degrees of Aquarius, Aquarius being the highest frequency of these air signs, being the quantum field. And this Susan Fu Lyran person also told me, for those who aren't aware, Lyrans are cat beings, that the cats on this planet are attuning us to a light language that is being used on that quantum timeline that we bounced onto. So look at what happened. 8:14 a.m. Pacific time, there's that trine. And of course, it's moving slowly, so it's that trine stays in effect. I mean, it's exact at 8:14. That even by the full moon in Sagittarius, which is happening at 3 degrees, it's still less than that 5-degree orb. This trine is still in effect. Meanwhile, Venus and Jupiter come together in conjunction at the mastery point, 29 degrees of Taurus, which is right next to Sedna, right? Remember, she's at 0 degrees of Gemini. All of this is including Sedna. A minute later from this conjunction, where she gets this huge exponential empowerment from Jupiter, because remember, Jupiter amplifies on an exponential level whatever it comes into. She makes the ingress into Gemini, and she is conjunct Sedna. And then she also, I don't know, I guess somehow, I don't know if this is in the right order. From the timeline, it doesn't look like it's in the right order, because 3:50 a.m. is after 1:30 a.m. She must be making this sextile to Neptune before. We might have gotten the time wrong off the app. And then we've got the full moon. And then after Venus has made her sextile to Neptune, then Jupiter makes his sextile to Neptune. Remember, Neptune in Pisces is that golden ray descending from the I am presence, your divine self, into your body. It's anchoring here near your 3D heart chakra embodiment. It's getting amplified by Jupiter here. The whole sacred feminine energies that are coming into Sedna and Gemini are getting a whole infusion as well. All of this coming together, bing, bang, boom, 6 different aspects within a matter of, 15 hours, certainly less than 24 hours, to bring about this quantum timeline that we were able to bounce onto from this full moon and Sagittarius. Look at this. Look at this full moon in Sagittarius. And here you see Jupiter and Venus together at 29. There's Sedna. The star involved with this is called Mirfak. It's in the Perseus constellation, and the sun. And what's still going on, and what has been going on for a month now, this trine, this Gemini Aquarius trine between Pluto and the cosmic Christ and Sedna and everybody that's been joining Sedna there. This path of most allowance for us to be transmuted into this higher frequency of being able to utilize the chakras, the higher octave chakras at the crystalline body, still going on. Unbelievable. Here is that star. Look at what it's about. Mental cleansing. Gemini and Aquarius, about clearing out all of the old mind control programs from the sinister forces, is enhancing the mental functioning through cleansing of the mind, increases the ability of a person to release difficulties of negative thoughts, various patterns of behavior that have been difficult, as well as cleansing of certain physical substances. And so for those out there saying, well, how is it going to be like they've woken up from a bad dream? because even the stars are sending in their frequencies to facilitate this incredible upgrade into this higher frequency. And then at the full moon in Sagittarius that happened on May 23rd, we moved to fermentation. The Earth star is at fermentation, and now the solar plexus is out the Alpha and Omega stage. This is just beautiful. Again, when you think about where I was talking about a couple of months ago, when Yeshua was involved with the activation of the solar plexus chakra, I think that was in January, not 4 or 5 months ago, about the lower will coming into alignment with the divine will. Well, with this full moon in Sagittarius, this is why we were able to jump on from this trampoline onto that higher frequency quantum timeline, because this alignment is made complete. This alignment that has been coming in, the lower will, the divine will becoming one, is now at the Alpha and Omega stage, and it is divine will, source will, for us to be on that higher frequency quantum timeline. Unbelievable. And now 2 days from today, we're going to have the resurrection seed point and the 22nd strand of DNA. And as I said, these 3 events tie in together. But let's look at what's going to happen here. We've got this flippin' yod. We've got this flippin' yod. Now, let me tell you something that's happened. From the time I did my last video to the time I cast this chart, and remember, I had that whole week where I was lost in that Inanna Underworld initiation. Somehow, some way, my dragon oracle cards, which are always sitting right here on this desk, have disappeared. Well, I was later told when I was talking to Maureen that they didn't really disappear. They're just in a higher frequency, and so I don't see them here, but they're here in a higher frequency. But it became a nuisance to me because obviously a yod, like a kite, is an alchemical aspect, and I wanted to pull a dragon card, but I couldn't because now they're over there in the fifth dimension or whatever higher dimension, and I'm just waiting for me to be able to see them again. But look at this. Look at this yod. And at the apex of the yod, we are brought into these Scorpio alchemical energies, right? What is the purpose of the Inanna Underworld? The death and rebirth. And what's thrusting us up here? To be grounded, to be rooted, to have an entire new energetic tap root into this alchemical process that's unfolding with us. We, of course, have the resurrection seed point, which is conjunct Rigel, the star that's a part of this, which is a part of the Orion constellation, and the North Node. The North Node. This is the perfect moment in linear time for our individual as well as the collective's evolutionary expansion, for us to be grounded at this resurrection seed point into what we are being alchemized as. And what's coming through right now in this very moment is the caterpillar that's been in the chrysalis that went into the goo has now been formed into the butterfly, but the butterfly hasn't broken through the chrysalis yet. But we are anchored now as these butterflies that have been transformed, alchemized, transmuted from everything that happened on April 7th, all the way up to all of those aspects that I've showed you, all of those shifts from chakra to chakra to chakra, to being this butterfly now that is getting ready on the other side of the resurrection seed point to break through the cocoon. It's just absolutely unbelievable. Saturnia in Pisces is facilitating both of the base points for this breakthrough in consciousness that we are going to be birthed as these new butterflies. Just for purposes of reference, here's the information on Rigel, on Orion. The one thing to be aware of is that Rigel is one of those fixed stars. It is the 7th brightest star in our sky, and it is associated with success, power, and strength. It is also associated with a very sharp mind, which of course is associated with the higher mind. And so here we see at this resurrection seed point that's happening 2 days from now, we're moving into distillation. Earth star will be at distillation. The sacral chakra will now be at the alpha and the omega. And so between June 4th, which is the resurrection seed point, and the end of the Inanna underworld journey, which doesn't happen until this activation on August 5th. Yes, in between Venus rises as evening star, but this Inanna underworld journey and its alchemical process is not complete until this root chakra gets activated on August 5th. So we're going to have 2 more shifts to be able to get the root chakra to the alpha and omega and the earth star to the alpha and omega before we begin that 3rd phase, the ascent phase through the higher body, crystalline body, the crystalline chakras at the root chakra. And so quickly again, to go through this is what it's going to look like. At the full moon in Capricorn, which happens to coincide with the summer solstice. So let me clarify this. The summer solstice is marked in the sky when the sun is at 0 degrees of Cancer. We know there's a full moon when the moon and the sun are opposite in the sky. So the moon will be crossing over 0 degrees of Capricorn, opposite from the 0 degrees of the solstice point where the sun is. But that full moon will not become exact until right after the summer solstice, when the moon, which does move quickly, gets to the 1 degree point. So these 2 events are technically in a linear timeline, 2 separate events, but they're pretty much happening almost simultaneously. So at the full moon in Capricorn, we will have our next alchemical shift, which is when the earth star gets to that last step, the 7th step, coagulation. The root star is now at alpha and omega. And then in July, when Venus rises as the evening star, remember, it's still considered the Inanna underworld journey. We're having that 23rd strand of DNA activation. And at that point, finally, when Venus, the Leo goddess, rises as the evening star, all of these chakras, from the crown chakra to the earth star chakra, will be at the alpha and omega step. They will be in this integration process collectively from July 11th until August 5th. August 5th marking when the Inanna underworld journey is complete and the evening star ascent journey is being initiated, along with that 24 strand of DNA. We come back to the very beginning, again, at the higher frequency calcination, where now We start at the root chakra and we work our way forward to the soul star chakra. We are back at the beginning. But from the crown chakra down to the earth star chakra, they have been at that alpha and omega stage since July 11th. So that's maybe 3 weeks. It's just less than a month. So all of those chakras have been fully alchemized, fully integrated by the time that we're ready to start here again at the root chakra in the crystalline body, the higher octave chakras at that higher frequency. So that was a lot. I'm going to stop the share, let Maureen speak to anything that comes up, any questions that you have about how far we've come and how far we are still going at a very rapid pace between now and August 5th. So go ahead, Maureen. What would you like to say about all of that?
Oh, yeah, the thing that I was trying to get my mind around was what happens to the Earth Star chakra, and it's actually complete now. So it will be stationed where the Earth Star chakra is. What's that? 12 inches foot below our feet. So it's positioned now to bring in the lower energies. The soul star chakra will continue to rise until it reaches its position, and then it will be complete. And then we will have energy coming from the earth through the earth star chakra up to the heart. We will have the cosmos energy coming down through the crown chakra, the soul star chakra to the crown, and meeting in the heart. And all chakras will be aligned with the heart. This is what the heart's been waiting for. The chakra is the one that all other chakras will serve for the next Venus journey. So that's how that all comes together, and the dates coincide, everything. It's all there, and we're going to be a part of it. It's very exciting. Just an amazing thing, for all of us to be here and present when this happens. It's part of the universal plan for humanity, and we've all wondered how that's going to happen, because it at times looks so bleak, and it's been very, very depressing to witness that, and to know that that's over for us is a blessing beyond words. It is truly an amazing thing, and I hope to be able to present alchemy at each of those steps in a way that helps you to claim whatever gifts the steps have for you. And as I said, it's an individual journey, and each of you will experience it in your own way. I truly would love for you to share that with us as we move through. Let us know, all of us, how you are experiencing it, what comes up for you specifically. For one thing, calcination now is the violet flame. We don't have to burn anymore, and I'm kind of glad, because my last calcination, I practically burned a house down. I had so much to burn, my sage fell out of my burning bowl and onto my table, and I mean my plastic table in the patio, and it left its own image mark there where it was burned, and I thought, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm lethal. So we're going to move on to the violet flame as the calcination step, and then from there water, it will be at a higher octave also. So that is very encouraging to me. So
Yeah. And the thing about it is, and I'm sure you ladies realize it, but for people watching this or for people not on the call to that are hearing it through the replay, we are a unique gathering of souls. Because as far as I am aware, nobody else is working with alchemy, not working with alchemy in the Inanna underworld in the way that we are, and getting the downloads of divine wisdom that we are. There was no template for this. Maureen and I had no idea how this was going to, shake out through the Inanna underworld, but it was revealed to us, and it was revealed to us in such a precision. We didn't have to go looking for it. It was shown, this is how it's happening. And when we put the pieces, we were like, oh my God, it completely is a perfection of everything being alchemized and completed before the ascent journey. I mean, the timings, again, like I said, we didn't go looking for, well, what event could we make that? No, we were told these events are making this shift.
it's
And
cosmic,
if you look at
cosmically.
them in completion, you will see it fall out.
Yeah, it's in divine design.
Yes.
It just had to be revealed is all. It was already in place.
Yeah.
And that will continue to happen. And I know it's going to continue to happen for all of us. And and like I said, I would really love to hear all of your experiences as we go through this process of the ascent.
Yeah. And I know this was a lot of information to take in. And I know we sent you that PDF saying, well, here it is, which probably meant nothing to you. But what would be a worthwhile contemplative experience is from this framework now, tracking back over the past 2 months of some of the things that were unfolding through you that got your attention, like, something's happening here, and seeing if you're able to connect those unfoldings with what was happening through this alchemical process. It'll be more empowering for you. And like Maureen said, we want to hear about it because each of us are experiencing this in a unique way. I mean, what I experienced with my own initiation, it came like, I kid you not, a lightning bolt out of the blue. One moment I'm sitting on the couch fine. The next moment I am down with headaches, fevers, chills, shakes, and trapped in my bedroom for almost 24 hours because my phone was out in the living room and I couldn't get to it without, every time I'd stand up, I would faint. So, and the thing about it is, I feel so much stronger physically now on the heels of that. I would have never anticipated bouncing back that quickly after a week of being even unable to get downstairs, and then being physically stronger, like, oh wow, I can do way more now than I could even before this happened. And so it's uncanny how we experience these things. And of course, for me, all of that was happening around the alchemization of the sacral chakra and the solar plexus chakras. And of course, what was I having? Serious digestive issues that are related to those chakras. So it's amazing to see how it comes through. Does anybody have any questions or ahas, awarenesses around anything that we've shared up to this point?
the thing that is coming to mind for me is, of course, you know how hard a time I have of letting go. I think it's in my DNA. I know it's hereditary. But this last month in particular, and even now starting still this last couple of months, has been watching what my daughter's going through and allowing her to go through it and just being there to encourage her to just go through it, just constantly with the reminder of, you can get through this, you will get through this, you know. And so it's been very, very difficult. That was why I went to Texas, you know, for almost 2 weeks, which I was grateful I was able to do. But and she's still going through stuff, and it's not pretty, and I hate seeing it, but it's also something she created for herself, and she kind of recognizes that, but she hasn't completely 100% owned it yet. At least not that I can tell, you know.
And
And
that's okay. We all create our own fires that we have to walk through, and nobody can walk through them but us. So this has been a huge shift for you, Gina, to step back in a supportive role and allow her to walk it without trying to negotiate that for her.
no, that you're right, because, you know, who else? Karen is also a fixed sign. She's a Leo too. Yes. August 7th. Okay. I just remember that. And it's like, that's very hard for us as fixed signs, because we want to fix, we want to help. And my daughter she's an Aries. And she's, you know, going through an awful lot, and the whining has somewhat subsided. So that's good, because I'm getting to a point where I can't take it anymore, you know. So I just back off and just allow. So
Well, and what I would encourage you to do, if you choose to do so, is to look over this experience from your own perspective and to really discover the golden nuggets around how you yourself have achieved, manifested your own levels of self-mastery, exclusive of her. Yes, it feels personal because she's your daughter, but if it had been anybody else, it would be easier to get into that impersonal state. So make it about you, not about her. What have I mastered? What have I demonstrated to myself through this alchemical process? It's just an invitation if you choose to do it.
no, that's very important. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's always good to hear somebody else's perspective.
Well, you know, and the thing is, the reason why Maureen and I want to hear about this stuff is because we all have our own unique journey. We all have our own personal self-mastery process that we're going through. And it's really great to recognize, validate, celebrate these milestones as we are expanding more and more into our self-mastery. So that, I mean, we were just talking about, can you believe in September, when we have that first Virgo Pisces eclipse, it'll be 5 years from when we were in France. And we could have never imagined 5 years ago that this is where we would be 5 years from then. It's mind-blowing. And so it's worth taking stock of just how far each of us individually have come through this process. And this Leo goddess journey has been a doozy because it is a fire element.
Y'all. Oh, I sent you a message. I actually, my dragon oracle cards haven't gone 5th dimensional.
Oh, yours haven't?
I know they're right here if you want me to pull a card.
Well, I'm the only person in this house, so where did they go?
Well, I get what you're saying. I did pull one. I asked, what is it that you have for us to help us with our descent, okay, into the Inanna underworld? And so the card that I pulled, because I don't know if you all can see that.
Let me put you on speaker view, and so say
Oh.
something so it comes up. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Put it up and say something.
Okay, it is it's the gold, which one is it? It's the green gold dragon from Sirius.
And what does
Yeah.
it say underneath that? Brings universal what?
It brings universal knowledge to your spiritual pathway. Yeah, I mean, this is I got goosebumps reading this. And so there's of course, the guidebook, of course, I still use that to a degree. Within the inner planes of the star system of Sirius and its ascended aspect, Lacumae, there are renowned universities attended by beings from the entire cosmos. In these elevated establishments, higher knowledge and spiritual technology from many universes are disseminated. These magnificent dragons work in these academies of light and carry the keys and codes of the spiritual technology of the future in their energy fields. Their mission is to spread this to all those who are ready to help bring in the new golden age. These dragons are cosmic travelers and, like all dragons, help us to move through the dimensions. In addition, they will guide and protect us on our interdimensional journeys between Earth and other parts of the universe, especially if we aspire to be an intergalactic master. And then the guidance says, drawing this card suggests you invite these luminous beings to swirl around you, touching your chakras with the sacred geometry of the universe. Then ask them to tune you in to any aspect of higher knowledge you can bring forward now. Sit quietly and allow this to happen. You may receive a download of information. Various keys and codes you carry in your soul may light up. If so, you will become a transmitter who broadcasts sacred knowledge, though you may not be consciously aware of it. This is a very powerful dragon. So notice subtle changes in your thoughts and attitudes. Your dreams may reveal memories from your travels with the wonderful green gold dragons from Sirius. This is a 7th dimensional dragon, by the way.
That's a phenomenal pull. Thank you for doing that for us.
You're very welcome. I mean, when you said yours, decided to, go 5th dimensional, I said, well, okay, I've got mine are right here. So.
Well, mine are too. I just don't see them yet.
Yes, you're not seeing them. They've kind of gone invisible on you. So
yeah.
What I'll do is I will take pictures of this and I will send it to you via email.
Okay.
So that you can disseminate that of everything, the guidebook and all.
Okay.
That way everybody can have a copy
I was
of it.
making slides of the dragon cards, so I may have made a slide of that card. I'll look to see if I have it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's page 88.
So I'll look for that. But yeah,
Okay.
if you send it to me, then I can
Absolutely
forward it on in case I don't have the slide.
Sure.
Any other questions? Any other revelatory ahas? Because this is the thing I want to really underscore here. From the Earth Star Chakra activation, immediately followed by that total solar eclipse, Maureen has had a phenomenal shift, and she is receiving so much divine wisdom, and she can feel it and she can know it, and she's confident about it. She resonates with the truth. There's no question that it's divine wisdom coming in. And of course, what's coming in is related to her area of alchemy. Each of you have an area that is your area. and you're being activated in the same ways, and you're going to get these downloads, these revelations that are a part of this greater picture that, for the most part, I've been sharing one of the puzzle pieces. Now Maureen's sharing a second puzzle piece. Each of you have a puzzle piece to share as we move forward that is filling in the landscape of this greater picture of where we are all going together. And, you know, it's highly unique that we've found each other, that we've committed to this work, that we continue to be involved in this work, even after such a long period of time. There's a reason why we are together. And so I want to really encourage you to start stepping forward with what you're receiving. And, you know, if you want to call me or Zoom me or whatever and say, look, this is what I'm getting. How does this fit in? Because it's amazing then when we start having the conversations, what then comes forward from just sharing the piece that showed up. And then we can integrate it into these gatherings. And so I just want you to be aware, if you haven't already become aware, that this is where we're going. So be prepared. Be prepared to really step up and really start contributing in your own unique way. Because you do have a unique contribution, which is why you found your way here anyway, if that makes sense. And no pressure. I'm just saying, you know, when you're ready, let me know. Because it's thrilling to get more pieces of the puzzle, right? I told her at the end of our conversation, well, now we have 4 of these elephant's whiskers. We think we know what's going to happen, but remember, we only have 4 of the whiskers now, you know, so we can get a sense of what's coming, but it may show up in ways that are unfathomable to us. Let me go back to the slides and show you where we are now. Okay. So 2 days from now, we're having that resurrection seed point when the 22nd strand of DNA is being activated. Of course, we're gathering today. That's where we are right now. Fast forward, we're going to have our July underworld shadow dancing group. I really am apologetic that we missed the one for May. And truthfully, with as rapidly as this timeline has been going, there just wasn't time to squeeze in a makeup for that. And I feel badly about that. I really do. But there we go. July 11th then, which will be, what is that, 4 days after we get together, is when Venus is going to rise as the evening star and the 23rd strand of DNA will be activated. But we're not going to do the ceremonial piece for this 23rd strand of DNA until we gather on August 4th. So on August 4th, when we'll have our next Venus ceremony, we will be activating the 23rd strand of DNA that coincides with the July 11th event and the 24th strand of DNA, which coincides with the portal of manifestation. That's that root chakra activation, which will happen on August 5th. So that's just to kind of keep you in terms of where we're going then. So before we go into the closure of this and we do our DNA activation for the 22nd strand of DNA, this is the final opportunity for anybody to ask any questions that they have, require any clarity on, or to share any input of any ahas that have come through up to now. Okay, So let me go back to the slides and let me just say to everybody that is watching the replay of this recording, thank you so much for sticking with us. I know that this might have been a mind bender. You might have to watch this in little spurts or go over it a few times. But these are exciting times, and we are super, super excited to share them with you. So we will see you again in August. And until then, we send you much love from our hearts to yours. Take really good care of yourself.